Franz Kafka, a writer whose life was as enigmatic and labyrinthine as the stories he penned. Franz Kafka was born on July 3, 1883, in Prague, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He grew up in a middle-class, German-speaking Jewish family. His father, Hermann Kafka, was a domineering businessman whose presence loomed large over Franz's life. Hermann embodied the patriarchal and authoritarian forces that Franz would later critique in his works. Franz's mother, Julie Levy, came from a more educated background but often deferred to Hermann's authority. Franz had 5 siblings, though his 2 younger brothers died in infancy, leaving him with 3 sisters. These early losses, coupled with his father's overbearing personality, created an environment steeped in tension and insecurity. Kafka's childhood in Prague was marked by alienation. He was a German-speaking Jew in a Czech-speaking city and lived in the shadow of his father's expectations. This duality, of belonging yet feeling estranged, became a cornerstone of his identity and his writing. Kafka excelled academically, but struggled to find his true calling. He enrolled at the University of Prague in 1901, initially studying chemistry before switching to law. The latter offered a stable career path, but also allowed him time to pursue his literary interests. While studying, Kafka befriended Max Brod, a fellow writer who would become his closest confidant and posthumous champion. Literary giants like Fyodor Dostoevsky, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Søren Kierkegaard profoundly influenced Kafka. Their existential themes resonated deeply with his own sense of isolation and introspection. He also drew inspiration from Jewish mysticism and his tumultuous relationship with religion, which oscillated between skepticism and fascination. In 1906, Kafka earned his law degree and began working at the Workers' Accident Insurance Institute. Though the job provided financial security, it drained his creative energy. By day, he analyzed industrial injuries. By night, he poured his existential angst into his writing. Kafka's first published work was a collection of short stories titled Meditation, 1913, but it was the Metamorphosis, 1915, that marked his literary breakthrough. The novella's opening line, "As Gregor Samsa awoke one morning from uneasy dreams, he found himself transformed into a monstrous vermin," is one of the most iconic in literature. Through Gregor's grotesque transformation and subsequent alienation, Kafka explored themes of identity, family obligation, and societal rejection. The story's absurd yet tragic tone encapsulated Kafka's view of human existence, a struggle against forces beyond one's comprehension or control. Kafka's works often reflected his personal fears and neuroses. His uneasy relationship with his father found its way into The Judgment and Letter to His Father, 1919, a raw and scathing account of their troubled bond. The latter revealed Kafka's lifelong sense of inadequacy and his struggle to reconcile his father's expectations with his own aspirations. Kafka's personal life was as fraught as his fiction. He was engaged twice to Felice Bauer, a Berlin-based woman he met through Max Brod, but their relationship was marked by indecision and emotional turmoil. Kafka's self-doubt and fear of intimacy often sabotaged his romantic connections. His later relationships with Milena Jasenska, a journalist and translator, and Dora Diamant, a young socialist, offered him moments of emotional solace. Yet Kafka's letters to these women reveal a man torn between a yearning for connection and an overwhelming sense of unworthiness. In 1917, Kafka was diagnosed with tuberculosis, a disease that would dominate the final years of his life. His health deteriorated rapidly, and he was forced to retreat from work and social life. Despite this, he continued to write, producing some of his most profound and fragmented works, including The Trial and the Castle. The Trial portrays Joseph K., a man arrested and prosecuted by a faceless authority for an unspecified crime. The novel's nightmarish atmosphere and critique of bureaucracy mirror Kafka's own sense of powerlessness in the face of institutional systems. Similarly, The Castle tells the story of Kay, a land surveyor seeking access to a mysterious castle, only to be thwarted by opaque rules and indifferent officials. Both novels remained unfinished at Kafka's death, yet their fragmented nature only adds to their mystique. Franz Kafka died on June 3, 1924, at the age of 40. In his will, he instructed Max Brod to destroy all his unpublished manuscripts. Thankfully, Brod ignored this request, preserving and publishing Kafka's works posthumously. Kafka's writings gained global recognition after World War II, resonating with readers who saw reflections of totalitarianism, existential anxiety, and alienation in his stories. Today, terms like Kafkaesque are used to describe surreal, oppressive, or absurd situations, underscoring the enduring relevance of his vision. Despite his relatively small body of work, Kafka remains one of the most influential writers of the 20th century. His exploration of the human condition, delivered through haunting and often unsettling narratives, continues to captivate and challenge readers. Franz Kafka's life was a paradox, a man who felt deeply disconnected from the world, yet illuminated its darkest corners with unparalleled clarity. Through his pain, he gave us stories that speak to the universal struggle for meaning, identity, and freedom. And perhaps, in this struggle, we see not just Kafka's reflection, but our own,